Hi friends, welcome back to Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. If you're new here, my name is Davine and I homeschool 4 kids ages 10, 11, 12, and 14. So today I'm going to be sharing my year-end reflections. In this video, I'm mostly going to cover just the activities that we did, things that worked with our schedule, didn't work with our schedule, things we had to change, what I'm thinking about next year as far as some of these changes, reward systems, all those sorts of things. I will be making curriculum specific videos on my final review of all of the curriculum that we've used, but those are coming up in future dates. So if you're interested in stuff like that, do give this video a like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're notified of when those videos come up. So today's video is a collaboration hosted by myself and Shauna from Homegrown Homeschool. We will have a playlist linked below where a bunch of other moms are joining in on this collaboration, sharing their end of the year reflections and how this homeschool year went for them. If you happen to have a channel primarily focused on homeschooling, we do have a Facebook group that we kind of have to organize these collaborations, the ones that Shauna and I do, as well as other people who are in that group are more than welcome to organize their own homeschooling YouTube video collaborations. So if you're interested in joining that, please do let me know. You can comment below and I can send you a link to that Facebook group or message me on Instagram or Facebook. We really like to have a variety of homeschooling moms in that group, so no matter how you homeschool, you are welcome to join. So in preparation for this video, I definitely wrote some notes, so if you happen to see me looking down, that is what I'm checking. I wanted to make sure I gave a good overview of our homeschool year, anything I can think of regarding this year. I felt like if I didn't make notes, then I probably would not cover many interesting things or even the basics. So forgive me if I'm glancing down at my notes. Let's get started on how the 2022-2023 school year went for us overall. First, I want to talk about some things that have stayed the same most of this year from last year. One, I do create a pretty detailed schedule. A weekly schedule because every day is different. I do try to realistically plot different subjects onto that schedule, and that keeps me from hopefully overloading myself and my children. We try to finish our homeschool in the morning. Of course, different personalities, and now as I have preteens and teens, that's more of a struggle, but we do try to get most of our schoolwork done in the morning. And then the afternoon is more for maybe silent reading, some independent work that I don't have to work with, or just catching up on work that maybe a child didn't finish because they weren't ready to start in the morning. So I don't talk about this a ton, but I do have kids with ADHD. I have a child with autism, and one child with ADHD has a very hard time being ready for school when it's time for school, and even with a lot of time, what I feel is a lot of time to prepare. So over the year, I have definitely had to be less. Most of us can start on time, but I need to not be so concerned if that one child is not able to get there on time. Just kind of let them take the morning at their own pace and things are working out a little better for us. Of course, that means that they are still required to do their work, and generally that means I have to come back to at least assisting or directing a child after our quiet time in the afternoon. And that is not my favorite, but that is sort of our reality right now. So I'm sure some of you can relate to that. So ideally, we follow the schedule. We get to school at 8:45. We start our personal devotions, do our math, do our morning basket, do our group work, do our independent work, and be done by about noon with a little bit of stuff to do in the afternoon. So that has pretty much stayed the same since last year. I also continue to use the individual work checklist, and that has worked very well. Each child gets their own checklist every week. I adapt the checklist based on what is happening that week. So I might cut out a day. I adapt things as they finish things off. I say, oh, I don't think that child needs to do 4 days of spelling, let's just do 3. And throughout the year, I'm always adapting that independent checklist trying to get the child to do what they can, but trying to make sure I don't overload each child. So those are some things that I've been doing pretty much since I started homeschooling or very soon into it, and they are still working for us. So some things that changed this year that made some differences in this homeschool. One big change was that in January, I started another job, about 20 hours a week, maybe less. It's super flexible. I'm doing delivery driving for different apps. I do have a video for that. If you're interested, I will link that below. But basically, I have DoorDash, Uber Eats, Grubhub, and Walmart Spark. Those are my favorite apps. And I will go out, generally I would go out any night that I don't have children's activities where my husband and I don't have to be there. So that was usually for, I would say it's 3 to 5 nights a week. For a while there, I was doing all Saturday. I have decided though, especially with the summer slowdown, to do a little less and only limit that to the busier days. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday evenings when it's possible. I still have visitors coming, or we're doing our anniversary. We're doing our 20th anniversary dinner on Friday night. So there are a lot of times when I can't do it or I choose not to do it. But as much as possible, I'm getting out and doing that. So that has made some changes in our home. My husband has always been very supportive and helpful. When I have stuff to do, he steps up, he makes dinner and things like that. So he has definitely had to do that a lot more. I try to leave as soon as he gets home. So 4:30 in the evening. So that means he is on dinner, he's on cleanup, he is on kids reading if possible, and sometimes getting people to youth groups and stuff like that. So he has had to do a lot more in his evenings. And definitely I am more of the structure person in our house. So when I'm not here, things can get a little chaotic, and some kids can play parents against parents and get to do things that they weren't supposed to do because I didn't communicate with my husband. So we've had a little bit of disruption in some parenting. And I mean, obviously, when both parents have to work outside of the home at some point, especially when you're homeschooling, things are just not going to run probably as smoothly as you would like. That being said, the reason why I'm doing this is because it doesn't take a lot of mental effort from me. It gives me kind of a break. It gives me a time to just be able to listen. I listen to YouTube videos, I listen to podcasts while I'm delivering, and just gives me time to just not be answering questions and even have silence if I need it. So it kind of has its pros and cons, and obviously bringing in some money to help our household. We are still struggling, I would say, to get that balance established. I really have always been a saver, and it's really hard for me to see the numbers in our savings go down versus at least stay even or go up. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. We're still trying to work out. We've tried to do things with our budget. I know we could do more drastic things, of course, but we're just kind of like trying to figure this out, how to make our finances balance at this point. So we're still dealing with that. Delivery driving, not as consistently as I would like, but really as consistently as I feel is healthy for my family. So that's where we're at with all that. So obviously that changed some things in our homeschool. So one thing that I went into this school year knowing that I was going to change from last year, and it has been really good, and it has really helped me prevent serious burnout this year. Generally, I do experience burnout here and there, and I'm not gonna say I didn't experience any burnout. I do have days of burnout, but it's less prolonged. So the thing that we added to my homeschool is on the first Monday and Tuesday of every single month, it has been off for me, off for my kids, off from homeschool. I guess not off for me. Basically, those 2 days give me time to catch up on any household financial tasks I need to do, anything I have to do with my businesses that are still going, making appointments for kids, sitting down and making those phone calls, giving me time to just look and see what's happening for the week, for the month. So these 2 days have been so beneficial. I feel like in general, I can finish most of what I need to do on that first day off, which gives me a second day to breathe, to relax, to rest. And generally that means I pick up a task like organizing, decluttering, something like that often happens. Or there's some weeks where we just don't have time for that. But it has given me sort of that margin in my life that I needed to just feel caught up for a little bit and even maybe get a little bit ahead on some things. So that has been a really good change that I've made in my homeschool. Now, the downside of that for me is that it does equal less school days in the year overall for my kids. It's still enough to cover the requirement, but we do have a little less days. However, I don't feel like it's really affecting our homeschool greatly. Another benefit of those 2 days off is it does give my kids a break, and it gives them time to do the unschooly thing, to go do the art project, to play with Legos, to go play outside, to just anything they want to do. It's just free days for them to do what they want to do. So that has been a positive change, and I don't think I can cut it out next year. So I think we're going to continue doing it. I hadn't really thought about it too much until this exact moment about whether or not I'm going to continue it, but I think I need to, for myself and my sanity and my kids' sanity as well. So actually I'm filming this again. It's on my Tuesday. Actually, it's not on the first Monday or Tuesday of the month because I had girls that wanted to move to their own bedrooms. So I accidentally thought that this was going to be the Monday, Tuesday. So I said, oh, we can do it this weekend because it's our long weekend. And then it wasn't. And then I didn't want to go back on my word. So I just took this last Monday and Tuesday of the month off instead. And I think it was kind of one of those where it would have been 5 weeks in between. And honestly, we were needing it. We were having a lot of resistance to doing schoolwork this week and behaviors and things like that. So I think we needed the break anyways. So I took my Monday and Tuesday off just a week early. Hopefully that will help us to finish our year strong. We still have about 2.5 weeks left of school when I'm filming this. So in adding on some work for myself outside of the home, I have had to work a little more on balance. Of course, there's no such thing as balance. I know one time you're gonna be busy on this and you're gonna be busy on that. And really the idea of balance is probably not a true possibility, but I have had to think about things that I need to cut. I have not cut my kids' curriculum, as I mentioned, I think in a video where I was talking back, maybe an update or something, I was talking about cutting curriculum and things like that. That has not happened. What I have done is cut down on just a tiny bit, like some responsibilities. I used to plan nature walks every 2 weeks for our Charlotte Mason group. I stepped back from that. No one else picked it up, but you know what? We have a lot of things going on. I'm gonna be telling you all the things that my kids did this year as far as after school activities and things like that, and we had plenty. So as much as I like to go on nature walks and I like to be forced to go on nature walks, I did not want something that I was responsible for, that I needed to commit to being there. And even though it's really easy to schedule, I felt like I needed to be there if I was scheduling it. And so that is something that I did drop when I started doing the delivery driving. The other thing that you might have noticed, and I did mention at that time, was I cut down to 1 video a week instead of 2. Honestly, now that I'm working on the 1 video a week, I don't even know how on earth, how did I get 2 videos out? I don't even know. So obviously that was totally necessary because at this point in my life, I cannot even imagine getting 2 videos out. So I appreciate you sticking with me, even though I have reduced my videos, and there are definitely different times in life. And for some reason during that time of life, I was able to do those 2 videos a week. So I think with doing 1 video a week, I just need to be more picky about the videos that I'm making. I'm trying to make the ones that are most important. And I think I might reduce a little bit of the fluff that you might have gotten if I was trying to do 2 videos a week. So I mean, I think 2 is still probably better, but 1 is what I can do. And with only 1 video a week, I have a few more topics to pick from, and I have to be just a little pickier on what videos I make for you. So I hope that that is working out for you guys. So as far as some activities that my kids have been doing this year, number 1, we are still part of our parent partnership program, What that is, it's kind of like a charter school in other states, but it is basically out of our school district. It is an alternative learning environment. And basically we have a supervising teacher that I submit monthly reports to on the curriculum that they give to us. I am able to choose all the curriculum that my children use. I am able to pace it how I want. I am able to pick and choose and supplement with things that I want. So really I get any curriculum that is non-religious, I get from the school district, and I do have to report on that monthly on how we're using the curriculum. However, I add all the things that I want as far as if I want anything Bible related, if I want anything that has more of a specifically Christian worldview, I just add that to my homeschool. So I do want to say that although we do use that program, I choose what I want for my kids. And there are sometimes maybe instead of Sunlight, I'm using Bookshark, but I feel like those programs are so similar and I don't really use the guides for either one anyways. So I just feel like as the parent, as the teacher, when we're reading the books, I'm going to be sharing our perspective on things with my kids, and really that's what I want. I want to encounter more difficult, challenging issues with my kids when they're at home and have the opportunity to let them know what I feel about it and learn about what they feel about it and just set that environment for my children to learn. So I don't have a problem using secular curriculum in general. We stay away from things that are very overtly secular, but we do use a mix of neutral curriculum as well as any Christian curriculum that I want to add to my homeschool. So we continue to do that. My kids take 1 or 2 classes a week. They have teachers there, so they have an art teacher, they have a science teacher, and they have a music teacher. So over the past 2 semesters, so in the fall and in the spring, between my kids, they have taken art, they've taken collage, piano, folk music, and science and math in the kitchen. So just a few classes that they've taken over the course of a year. Generally, we do 1 to 2 classes for each of the kids, and I try to make sure they're all during that 1 hour or 2 hours. So I just find a way to coordinate that. And then I get to go and hang out with the other parents who are part of the program, a lot of which are my friends from church, and in our Homeschool Co-op. So that's something else that we have continued to do. We started it very first year of homeschooling during COVID. One of my really good friends in our church, she's been homeschooling a really long time. And then a bunch of us, I would say the majority of the church, started homeschooling during COVID. And so a bunch of us have just joined together on Fridays. And in general, we've done pretty casual co-op. We have done a lot of nature walks. We have just hung out at people's houses and gone on little walks around the neighborhood. We've done some nature journaling. This past year, we tried to make it a little more educational. So my friend was teaching music and I was teaching technology. So things like creating journals and things for Amazon, things that I do in my business. And so we would do half of the kids each, and then the next week we would swap. So we only did that on rainy days. We have a lot of rainy days around here, especially in the winter. And other than that, we just go out and do nature walks and hang out and just have fun together. So I really prefer that kind of co-op. I don't need someone else teaching my kids unless it's a specific subject I really want to find someone to teach. I prefer to teach my kids myself at this point. So I mentioned that we did some nature walks. That was more in the fall, like every other week. I also got passes for a trampoline thing in our area, and it was very affordable for 4 kids to go, and basically we could go for 2 hours any day, but we just went once a week on Tuesday afternoons and hung out with a different group of homeschool families. So really just a few, but it was just a nice way to get out. And I have found that my social child really thrives on that motivation to get through his work in order to be social. And honestly, sometimes if we had to do some work there at the trampoline zone to finish up, that's what happened. However, it was good motivation to get that work done so that they could go and jump and play with their friends. So we did that probably until about March, at which point I feel like we had been going a lot. The kids weren't jumping as much, especially my girls. My older 2 girls are just getting a little bit over that. So we stopped that, and at that time, both of my sons tried out baseball. One ended up doing it through the whole season, so that was sort of his extracurricular activity, first time doing really a group sport for him, and he really enjoyed it and he really had fun. He knew some kids from both our parent partnership program as well as from school, because he was in school 4 years ago. So he still remembered some of those kids. He's the social one. So he really enjoyed baseball, but of course that added practices and games and just random times. So that's why I do the delivery driving, because I can just do it whenever I can and I'm not committed to any particular schedule. Other activities my kids did was, in the fall, the boys did Taekwondo. My girls have done dance all year. They both like to do hip hop. A local dance studio been doing hip hop. They've been doing different dances, just depending on what strikes their interest that semester. But they did hip hop all year. We also go to church every Sunday, and so the kids like to see their friends there. And of course, we see a lot of our Homeschool Co-op people there at church. And then my girls go to 2 youth groups. So they go to our church's youth group on Sunday nights, and then they go to another church's youth group on Wednesday nights. And so that all sounds like an awful lot of stuff. But you have to remember that I do have 4 kids, and they are kind of in that teen, preteen ages, and I feel like it is not too much. And honestly, most of them only usually have one activity at a time, if that. Sometimes they don't, which is fine too. And then just have youth group and church on top of that. So I guess I'm very social too, and I don't mind doing things. However, I do like to have some afternoons at home. I forgot to mention my 2 boys still go to the public school once a week for speech and occupational therapy. In our state, if they have an IEP that require those services, then they get it at the school, and we just continued on from where we left off when we left public school, and that has been working well for us these past 3 years. So we don't do a ton of field trips in our homeschool. Generally, our field trips are the nature walks and hanging out with friends, but we have done 2 fun field trips just this spring. With our parent partnership program, they arranged a field trip to the Spark Museum, and that museum is basically about electricity. They did a fun presentation using electricity and just a lot of experiments for the kids to see. And then we were able to wander around the museum and actually touch a whole bunch of inventions that people made, the original antiques that they had available for us to touch or look at depending on the antique. So that was a lot of fun. And then my husband has some days that he needed to take off, or he wouldn't get paid for them anyways. He works in a school district. So we took, a few Fridays ago, we took a day off and we went to a zoo that is about 2 hours away that we have never been to. It's not a huge zoo, but I actually prefer the smaller zoos, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun that day, so we all got to go on a field trip to the zoo. So we don't do that a lot as a part of our homeschool. Generally, we'll do that just as a family in the summers and things like that. So that's kind of what I would consider field trips that we did this year in our homeschool. So I would say the major points of growth that I've seen in my kids this year continues to be independence, learning how to take their checklist and independently complete it. I would say my youngest son really improved in that area this year. My girls continue to do pretty well on that. My middle daughter, she would rather get all her work done. She's that kind of student, so I'll give her the week's worth, and she will definitely be done most Thursdays, even though we have school on Friday as well. So that's what she likes to do. She would love if I just handed her a year's worth and just said, hey, here's your work, and then she'd probably be done in 6 months and have no schoolwork for the rest of the time. So I avoid doing that for her. My other daughter, she is still being responsible in general in doing that, needs a little more help and a little more checking on. And then my middle son still has a ways to go. It depends on the day. Some days he's really good at just looking at his chart and doing it, and other days, yeah, not so much. So growth, I would say, in all those areas for my kids. But we are going into 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade next year. So hopefully we'll continue to see that growth in kids that need a little more independent motivation. Some challenges that we faced this year, specifically probably towards the end of second term or maybe a little bit past that, so it didn't make it into my video. we stopped using anything internet, computer based for the remainder of the school year. We were having issues with kids clicking on things that they shouldn't, or just using the computers in ways that they shouldn't, and we were getting viruses. So I pretty much cut off anything we were doing online. So we stopped doing Me Academy, we stopped doing typing.com, we stopped doing coding, all those things that I mentioned in past videos, we have not done for the last 2 months or so, and really just went to computer as needed only. My middle daughter still does use the computer because we haven't had any problems with her behavior on the computer, but all my other kids were just kind of cut off for a while until they can be a little more, I don't know, responsible with how they use it. And so, yeah, we're still trying to figure that out. So if you have problems like that, you know, you're not alone. I would like for them especially to be learning typing. I have one son who just physically has a very hard time writing, and being able to type would probably help him so much with just writing and being able to communicate his ideas. So yeah, I don't know. I would love to be able to introduce that, but I'm not sure if we will do that next year or maybe partway through the year, or we'll just have to find some better systems to keep all of that kind of under control. If you watched my update video from last week, you will know that we have had some challenging behaviors with people. A lot of hormones going on in our household, you know, these preteen 10, 11, 12, 14-year-olds. There's a lot of emotions. Some emotions are easier to deal with than others. Some are able to regulate their emotions better than others. So we are definitely dealing with a lot of that, especially towards the end of the school year. Yeah, so we're just working on that. I've gone through several reward systems this year. We started out with one that I showed you in a video a while back. We moved to another one that Rachel from, I'll link her video below. So she did more of a, you start out with this many points and you lose points as you go. And that actually worked for 3 of my kids. Did not work for one of my children. So then I came up with a new system for that child, and it's worked for a few days. So we'll see how that goes. Much more, you earn things as you go throughout the day, as you do the tasks that you need. We just kind of keep track of points, and it's kind of like a ladder. You get this reward. If you reach the next level, you get this reward. You reach the next level, you get this reward. So maybe I'll share it with you sometime if it works out for us. But like I said, we've been using it about a week, and things have been better. But yeah, so we'll see how things go there. A challenge that I have faced since the beginning of our homeschooling is for that one middle daughter, how to challenge her and give her enough, but not to overburden her and give her too much. Because she does like to get through her work really quickly. In the past, I've been so tempted to just add. I have been much more conscientious of that this year, and when she finishes things quickly, I'm not adding. I just say, hey, what she's doing is good, it's enough. She does spend a lot of her free time doing things like art and things that she really enjoys, very self-motivated to learn things that she's interested in. So I've done better at that, and I just need to continue to be aware of that. If my other kids have too much, it is very, very, very clear, and I just have to take a step back. So with her, it's just not as clear. She's able to handle a lot, and I feel like I need to be careful not to pile on too much, so then she gets all stressed out. So that's something that I'm working on all the time. The other thing that I am working on trying to figure out a balance in is allowing my children to fail. So in general, if you haven't been trying to work on your schoolwork and there's an activity coming up, then you don't get to go if you haven't done your schoolwork or haven't been working diligently on your work to complete your work. If you finish your work, of course you get to go. That's not a problem. But when you drag your feet all day and then you start like an hour before the activity and then you expect to finish your whole day's work in that 1 hour and then go to the activity, that's where I've been struggling. I've been trying to help my kids learn to not procrastinate until the point where it is too late for them to complete the task and then be able to gain whatever the reward is or be able to go do the activity. So if you are struggling with that yourself, or if you have any tips on how to do that, kids with ADHD and they have that hard time just realistically knowing how much time they're going to take and getting out of a funk when they're in a funk, and just yeah, there's been times where I've been for several days offering my help for an assignment, and then 5 days later it's like, okay, well, this thing's coming up and we haven't done that thing that I have been offering to help you with, and you just want to put it off until the very last day. So things like that. So if you have any tips like that, if you've been a parent a while, you've had kids like this, I would love to hear any tips you have for setting those boundaries and then sticking to them. And yeah, it's just really hard. I'm generally very, very good at enforcing things, but it's just hard when you have kids that really have a hard time with those boundaries. Yeah, even for me, it's hard not to give in or just try to make it. Yeah, I think there's a balance, and it's really, really hard to balance. Okay, this is a very long video. This is the final thing. I am going to talk about things that I'm going to take into the next year, or changes, maybe more changes I'm going to make in the upcoming school year. So in the upcoming school year, I will have 3 middle school students, 2 of which are going to be starting some high school credit. And in order for them to have that time to do their independent, it will be more independent work, I will help them, but these subjects are going to be done on their own. I need to cut down on some of our morning basket and group time just to allow that time for them to work on that work. So I'm going to need to figure out what I'm going to change there. I honestly don't want to change a whole lot. I really enjoy our morning basket and group work time, and most of my kids do. One does not as much because she'd rather just do all her work and get it all done, but I think it's still valuable time together, so I want to reduce it, but not by a crazy amount, but also by a reasonable amount. The other thing is I'm going to need to schedule weekly, maybe even twice a week meetings, depending on the child with my 2 older girls. I don't want to just give them their work and then let them go. First of all, then I lose track of what's happening and we get behind in marking, and yeah, things go too far and we have to go back and fix things. So I need to set up a time at least once a week to meet with my girls to work on planning out their week, figuring out their schedules. That is something I'm adding. They're going to be using planners a lot more. I'm going to make them plot out their homeschool kind of schedule, what they plan on doing on which days, realistically based on what life is happening. So that's a bit of a change, and then having those one-on-one meetings with them, and maybe with my older, I might have to meet twice a week just to make sure she's able to complete the work that I've assigned. Things are going to be a little bit harder for both of them, so more challenging for both of them, and hopefully what I've planned is not too challenging. I'm really concerned that I am going to try to do too much versus too little. So that's something I'll have to just keep monitoring as we go along. That's really all I wrote down in my notes as far as changes. We're still going to have the schedule. We're still going to have the independent checklist. I'm hoping my boys will become a little more independent and be able to do work without me kind of saying, hey, what's your next thing? Go do your next thing, things like that. And I need more time with my girls one-on-one versus our group time together. And I'm hoping that our days will not stretch out too long. I'm okay if the girls add maybe half an hour to their current day, but I don't want it to just be crazy. This is just their kind of 8th grade credits, so I don't want to make it too much and overwhelm my 12-year-old and my 14-year-old who does struggle with some academic things. So, wow, so I totally talked your ear off. I would love to hear, how did your homeschool go? Was it a good year? Was it a bad year? Was it a challenging year? Was it a year of growth, or a combination of those? Probably. Just comment below how you're doing, how you're feeling about this homeschool year. I guess my personal feelings about this year was that it was, I don't know, it was fine. It wasn't horrible. It was good. It was a good year. I think the 2 days off a month really helped with that. And yeah, so we're just going through, living our life, and homeschooling. Yeah, so now I'm jabbering. So thank you for coming today. If you like this video, please give it a like so other people will see the video. And I hope to see you in my curriculum reflections videos that are going to be coming up after this. Bye, everybody.